Maria del Mar, what about you?
So
Don't worry, let's just keep going because that's the beauty of editing. We can cut and paste anything.
okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mind Mapping with Miss Annabella. My name is Samuel Renas. I'm a senior student and I'm just a few days away from graduating, which feels completely surreal. Today we're diving into chapter 4, which talks about how we can become creative problem solvers. Today with me, joining me is Maria Almar Mantilla, Juliana Palacio, and David Bisbal, which are 3 amazing Marymount students with really unique stories that really tells us a lot about how we can face adversities in today's world.
Hey everyone, I would like to give a warm welcome to our school director, Miss Annabella Martinez, who is also the ultimate creative thinker.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Annabella, for giving us this opportunity to share our stories and inspiring us to think big and act on our problems.
Hi, I'm super excited too. I'm the youngest here, so it's such a big deal for having me today. Thanks, Miss Annabella, for having me.
Thank you. I wanted to express my gratitude for you agreeing to be part of this podcast. This is a very special one because I think that creative problem solving is one of the key skills that we need in today's world. If we look around us, all of the complexity, all of the issues that are happening that sometimes might not seem to make sense, what we need in order to offer impactful, beneficial solutions for our community is to be creative. So I couldn't be more honored to be joined by Samuel, who's just a few days from graduating. We're in the final countdown. And also Juliana, our youngest student here, getting ready to make that transition in elementary. Maria del Mar and David, for your contributions, which we're going to be learning more about in a minute regarding the STEAM fair. So welcome and thank you for accepting. Great. So it's so wonderful to have you here. And before we get started in learning more about your stories and how you have become creative problem solvers here at Marymount, I wanted us to start by thinking a little bit about what creativity means. So when you hear the word creativity, or when you hear about the device creative problem solver, what comes to mind? David, could we start with you?
Yes, we can, Ms. Annabella. Of course. I think creativity means a lot in looking for new solutions for problems that arise right now, meaning knowing the problem that is occurring right now and trying to find a new solution or a new way to solve it. I think creativity is all about that.
It's about finding new pathways, right? Things, thinking out of the box. Maria del Mar, what about you?
So, when I think about creativity, I always think about this quote because I see it every day at school.
Okay.
And it's a quote, I think, said by Albert Einstein. I might not be sure.
Mhm.
But it says that creativity is just intelligence having fun. And that's what I think about creativity. Because you can be intelligent, you can know how to solve math problems. But if you don't really use it for the real world, then there's no way of actually showing that creativity inside of you.
I love how the way that you connected creativity as a cognitive, analytical skill, but at the same time that we have to have fun so that there's emotion connected to it. Because if we don't have fun, then what's the purpose, right? So in order to be creative, we need to address complex problems, and they might be difficult, but we can have fun as well. Juliana, what about you? What comes to mind?
When I think in creativity, I think like thinking different to other people, like having fun, but at the same time, having fun without hurting anyone, but still having fun.
That's great. I like how you have highlighted the importance of creative problem solving being beneficial to the community, because at the end of the day, isn't that our role in life, to make a positive impact wherever we may be? What about you, Samuel? Why don't you finish us off with your ideas?
Well, I liked a little bit of what Juliana said, which talks about how everybody has a different way of thinking, which I believe that's where creativity comes in mind. I believe that we all have the capacity to be creative regardless of our context, of our ideologies, of our way of thinking. And I believe that creativity comes in individuality for me. So I believe that the simple action of creating an idea is enough to be creative, since that is what we were given, the capacity that we have as people, as students, as citizens in this world. And I believe that, as everybody has said, obviously, since you have all had me at loss of words, but as everybody has said, it's on looking to find problems, looking to understand our context, and with a simple idea, looking how we can be creative to solve them.
That's great. And sometimes the solution might be simpler than what we imagined. So creativity doesn't necessarily mean that we have to come up with all of these complex outcomes or solutions, but how maybe from the simple things we can also solve problems. So now we're going to get to the exciting and interesting part of this podcast, which is where we get to learn about your stories and about how you have enacted creative problem solving here at Marymount. So I'd like to start with Juliana, if that's okay. Juliana, I know that earlier this year you had an experience that was not expected. So tell us a little bit about how you navigated what happened using your creative problem solving skills.
Sure. Earlier this year, I have a spinal surgery. It was really difficult and really painful at the beginning, but in the past of the time, I was recovering, so I need to figure out ways to catch up with school, homeworks, and classes. At first, I invite friends home, and they helped me a lot, explaining me and having fun. We have a lot of fun. But I think having friends was not the best way because was more laughing than studying.
Maybe you were having too much fun.
Yeah.
And not a lot of studying or homework.
Yeah, so then I figured out I need to talk more with teachers because they won't make me laugh that much. So I began studying and having virtual classes with my teachers. I asked more questions. I tried to study in home. I tried to do what I can, but it was really difficult because I have therapies
Sure.
and I need to go to gym. All the pain was really difficult, but it became easier and easier with the time.
Well, that's really impressive. I went to Mexico for 4 days and it was impossible for me to catch up. But it's really impressive.
Thank you, Samuel. It was really hard, but with the help of my family, the support of the school, and the fear having God, it became easier. Prove myself that I could figure out ways to manage the situation.
I think, Juliana, you are a true example of not only creative problem solving, but also resilience. One of the things that I think is important from what you shared is the role of peers, your friends that offered support in the academic perspective, but I'm sure they offered a lot of emotional support during that time while you were at home, making you laugh, making you interact with them and sharing in some commonalities. So I think that with your story, we can highlight the importance of working with others when we have to solve problems, because creative problem solving is not about being by ourselves in a room or in a library somewhere. It's also about interacting, because the best ideas might come up when we are together in community.
Yes, definitely. I don't know what I would do without my friends or family. I don't pass this alone. I was with people and with friends. When people I love every since moment, and I thank all of my friends and family. That it was so impressive to see how my mom told to me. It's impressive to see how many people love you and want you. I have friends visiting me in the hospital, have a lot of friends coming to my home, have presents. I think that was the best part of the surgery.
The best part. And now you're entering next year, 6th grade, the last grade of elementary before you move on to high school. Can you think of maybe one lesson that you learned during that time that you were at home, that you were recovering from the surgery, that you're going to take with you not only to 6th grade, but maybe even beyond, like when you're like Samuel, who's about to graduate?
Yes, I think I take that way. I see the problems and the solution. Before my surgery, I think that the solution was only wait for other people to fix my problems. Now I know that I need to put on my part and adapt to changes, not only stay there arguing and complaining.
Of course, such wise words. Thank you, Juliana, for sharing such an inspiring story. I'd like to move on now to Maria del Mar and for us to talk a little bit about something new this year that happened at school, which was our STEAM fair. The first time that we've had a fair in middle and high school where we integrated science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So there, all students really had an opportunity to showcase their creative problem-solving skills. I'd like to start with you, Maria del Mar. Tell us a little bit about your project.
Thank you, Miss Anabela. So in short, my project is basically a headband that is able to read your brainwaves. And this is done with an electrocephalogram, which is used in hospitals, etc., to read your brainwaves. So what we made with this is that with help of a Bluetooth module, we connected it to the computer, and with a software in the computer, it's able to give you feedback about the information that is perceived from your brain. And kind of like what inspired us to do this was several things. First of all, that many people we know have diabetes, so we wanted to learn about the relation between the brain and consumption of sugar, for instance. And also the fact that a few months ago I had a weird incident in which I had a seizure out of nowhere without any diagnostics. So I was like, well, maybe if I was able to anticipate this accident, I would have been able to not have it at all. So that's why I decided to make this project.
And that's awesome. Turning personal problems and situations into your project, I think that is real problem solving right there.
Thank you, David.
That's true. And I think also there you were able to connect it with something that had occurred to you. So it even makes it more meaningful. I know, David, that you also had a pretty interesting project at the STEAM fair. So tell us about it and where you and your group got the inspiration from.
Okay, so our project basically looked at Barranquilla and saw that it was growing really fast in terms of population and tourism, but the transportation around the city, it wasn't really growing. It was stopped. There were traffic jams all over the city. The Transmetro did not connect the whole lines. So we went and decided to take a problem into our own hands and decided to create Back Metro, which is a project that tries to implement a metro system in the city of Barranquilla to try to connect all the parts of Barranquilla together. And our inspirations was simply looking at our city. We were giving a project with English class where we were looking at how we could improve the city in different ways. And we took information from this metro and decided to implement that in our project, looking at the problems and the needs of our city and trying to satisfy them as much as possible.
That's great. I think I was able to see the model that you guys put together and that you presented at the fair. And you know what I find interesting about the project is that your group, you took creative problem solving to the next level with the Marymount Way. Because one of the things that we emphasize here at Marymount is entrepreneurial leadership, turning ideas into action. But in doing that, always making sure that we are benefiting society. So I think that taking a problem of our city gives me a lot of hope for the leaders that I know you're going to be in the future. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Ana.
So at the start of the podcast, when we talked about creativity in general, you mentioned how it involves thinking out of the box, finding new solutions. I think that in order to do that, we need to take into consideration different perspectives. We need to see the problem from different angles. We also need to be able to identify the different impacts that that problem or solution can have. I know that one of the things that you've been very involved in here at school has been our Model United Nations that requires you to really look at worldwide problems from different perspectives and integrate them in order to find a solution. So I would like for us to focus a little bit on your experience. So can you speak to that, to how you have been able to learn about integrating perspectives through the activities that you've done at Model United Nations? Somewhere, we can start with you.
Well, I've been part of the MEN club since I'm in 5th grade. I've been attending models since I'm 11. And something I really think is that, especially in our youth, in our context, we all live in our own bubble. And I think that that's a really big problem for our generation. So going to MEUN, not only have I been able to talk about certain problems and contexts that are far from where we live, but we've also been able to apply those into the context that we currently live in. Sorry for the redundancy. But in a certain way, I believe that MUN has taught me to really analyze what are the privileges that you have as a person, the ideologies that you stand with as a person, and how those can be related to other people's contexts, other people's ideas, ideologies. And overall, I believe that it really helps you to analyze the environment in a much more complex way. It lets you see the details of the bigger picture. That's what I believe that MUN does. And due to the opportunities that I have had traveling to Mexico, to United States, around Colombia to participate in models, I think that I've also applied to them by simply integrating myself with other delegates. For example, in Mexico and the United States, they have a very different way of looking at MUN. They have a very different way to overall, due to their cultural differences, to overall like integrate themselves into their problems. And I believe that that is something really interesting, because something that Marymount really says a lot is about global competence, global integration. And I believe that through those experiences that we have had going to other RHSM schools and other schools like overall in the world, we've been able to bring a lot of things here to the MUN Club. So since I've become Secretary General, we have actually inaugurated now that MUN is able to invite other people from around the world to participate. We currently had Marymount from Cuernavaca participate in BAMUN.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And for the first time, we had BAMUN opening up spots and staff for other schools inside of Colombia, because we believe that it really creates a connection, because we find connection in our differences. And I believe that that is what MUN really talks about. Well, MUN really talks about differences and how we can apply them to our context.
Thank you, Samuel. And I would take from what you just shared of relating creativity to explore complexity. Sometimes we think of complexity as something negative, but actually complexity can be something positive. It can make us uncomfortable at first, but if we embark on the analysis with a creative mindset and an open disposition, we can definitely find solutions.
Yes,
so
definitely.
thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Maria del Mar, I know that you've also been part of MUN. So can you speak a little bit about that as well in terms of your experience and how to combine looking at different perspectives with creativity?
Sure. First of all, I would like to say that I completely agree with what Samuel says, especially with that part of cultural differences, because we went to Mexico together, and I've also met a lot of people from other places through MUN. And I think that those differences are what lets us as human beings to create balanced solutions that can actually benefit everybody, because sometimes it might benefit a religion or a person or a race. But when we work together as different delegations, different countries, different people, we actually come up with solutions that could actually change the world at a bigger or smaller scale. But I would like to talk about something specifically,
Sure.
and this is that MUN hasn't really taught me that much how to speak, but it has actually taught me how to listen to other people. Because
so important.
yes, it's super important, because first of all, if you are a stubborn person, I wouldn't recommend you going to MUN, because you need to be able to listen to different perspectives.
Or maybe yes, so the person can learn how to listen to different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but also always have your ears open to new perspectives in order to come up with better solutions, to never leave someone behind, because maybe you can be, well, they actually are right. I might actually have to listen more to have a better solution. So I haven't been in MUN that long. I entered in 9th grade, but I feel like it's the best choice I have ever taken in my life, because it has helped me how to structure ideas, how to speak better, and ultimately how to listen to everybody equally and in a scale that I can actually react to what they say in a quick way. So creativity and thinking quick are two skills that really work together in MUN.
I think that's great inspiration for maybe Julia. She's thinking about the following years, maybe participating. David, what would you add? Because I know that you've been very active with MUN as well.
Well, a lot has been said already about MUN, and I completely agree with all the statements. And I want to point out something that might be obvious, but I would still like to highlight, and is that at the end of the day, in the MUN, you try to write the resolution paper to make it pass, and that is the whole point of the event, to get your resolution to pass. And that involves your creativity, because you have to try to persuade other countries, maybe with different perspectives, or other delegates with different perspectives, into your own perspective. And that you don't persuade different countries the same way. Sometimes you have to try different strategies for different countries, and that way you can maybe get your resolution to pass. So I think that at the end of the day, MUN wants to highlight creativity because it integrates the whole community and integrates the whole different perspectives. So maybe you can also make the resolution pass and give a solution that will ultimately will help and benefit the world.
Thank you, David. You've highlighted the importance of not only looking at different perspectives, but then bringing back together and integrating them.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to add
Something that I just like really quick that came up
Yeah.
to my mind is that I believe that MUN really, the creativity in MUN comes from balancing selfness and selfishness. Because something really important is that, of course, when integrating an idea, you cannot let others pass over your own ideas.
Right.
Of course, you have to listen, but you also have to be heard. And I believe that the most important thing that I believe any delegate can learn from MUN to really make a mark, but also let people make their mark on you.
Sure. Being assertive as well. Wonderful. So we just finished learning about all these exciting experiences in Model United Nations. Juli, I wanted to move over to you because you just had the experience as well of the Mini Moon Elementary School. What did your experience tell you about what these students have shared? Were you able to see at the Mini Moon these different creative thinking skills?
Yes, I see it, but I also think that they are like instead really serious, more advanced. The minimum was like more disorganized. My committee was really disorganized. The leader was crazy, but it was really fun, and I think it's true. It's really important to lead and let other people to make their mark, but have your idea clear. I want to be part of the model. I think it's a lot of fun. It's serious. It's a different experience. It's not like only exam.
Sure.
It's different. It's amazing, I think.
So it's an authentic, real world scenario where you can develop your skills, right?
Yes, it's like you can express your ideas of a country, but you need to listen a lot because in my committee, they didn't listen and it was a disaster.
And that happens in real life too, right? When we don't see diplomatic
exactly.
solutions come
It
to
becomes a
fruition,
disaster.
it could be because, you know, the actors involved, the agents involved, they're not listening to each other. So
They're not balancing.
They're
the
not
selfishness
balancing.
and
So I think that even though you saw it as a little bit disorganized, I think at the end of the day, it probably was a great learning experience for
Yeah.
students.
Now I listen to this and it's so serious, so correct. What was my committee doing?
So maybe you can inspire them to join, right, the Model United Nations here at school. And I'm sure that they will learn all of these skills that these wonderful students are sharing today. So now let's turn our attention to our graduating senior, Samuel. Samuel has only been at Marymount for 2 years, but during your time here, you have really expanded and participated in all different areas of student life. Nations, the Green Club, academically, you have also excelled. So tell us, Samuel, a little bit about what drives you, what motivates you.
Well, I believe that I've gone through a lot of changes in my life. Well, not only I come from Canada, I moved when I was 6, and then I changed schools in 10th to 11th grade, basically. And I believe that through all of that, I've been taking a lot into account the devices of being a creative problem solver, because the adaptability of all these changes is kind of like what has helped me to be driven in a certain way. I already said this, but it's something that I really like about this school is the way that it believes on how the leaders that are graduating from Marymount make their mark. And I believe that initially, when I was younger, I believe that my academic excellence and my participation in a lot of things at school came mostly from trying to be an overachiever rather than actually finding value to what I was doing. But listening to this motto that the school has, I believe that really it all comes into what really drives me right now is to leave an impact. And not to leave an impact to receive recognition or to be better than anybody else, rather because I believe that an impact helps other people make even bigger impacts. And I believe that that's where the real lesson comes into. I participate as well outside of school, a lot of service clubs such as IAPE, which is a Catholic youth group. And through all of these different activities I have had the opportunity to participate in, I understood that you can never really seek to leave what's best for everybody, rather to leave something that can make somebody else make it best for the rest. So I think that it all comes in evolution in a certain way. Just follow a chain of making an impact and let other people make an even bigger one.
Very well said, Samuel. Well said. I think that what you're sharing also connects very well with the legacy that we can leave wherever we go.
Yeah.
And that's what a Marymount education is all about.
I want to emphasize on that because, well, I have the opportunity to also be Marymount Legacy. My mom is a student, and I think that she takes really deeply her school with her. Her friends up to this day is everybody from her class, like her classmates are her friends to this day. And everything she does, she really thanks a lot at Marymount for it. She believes that basically it has helped her or shown her to be a leader, to show her to actually demonstrate what she's capable of. She really holds her school dearly to her heart. And that's something really important for me because I used to think that I left school and that's where I leave it at. But now that I'm leaving the country, I understood that something that you said actually at our farewell, something that Miss Anabella was telling us.
What did I say?
She was telling us that she really hoped for us to leave, but to also contribute rather from wherever we are. And my mom has lived in the whole world. She's lived in Venezuela, Canada. And in every step she has made, she has always had a heart and a passion to help where she's from. And I believe that that's actually what my Explore is about.
Yes.
It's actually about analyzing how by leaving we can bring more here to Colombia. That's actually another thing that drives me. I want to study because I want to make my country better. I want to make my context better. And that's something I really want to know about what you said.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Maria del Mar, does that resonate with you?
A lot with the part of kind of helping the place we're at. Taking into account that right now all of this has to do with brain drain, the fact that many people are leaving to other countries and contribute more to other countries than to Colombia, which already has a lot of problems. I think that all of us should leave, learn from other places, and apply what we've learned to Colombia.
You know, I have to share with you, I think I've said this publicly before, but I'm just going to say it again. One of the things that motivated me to come back to Colombia after living in the US for 8 years was the possibility of giving back. And I am thankful to God that I am not only being able to give back to my city, Barranquilla, which I love dearly, but that I've had the opportunity to give back to my school by being here at Marymount. And just listening to you as you represent all of our students here, it just fills me with a lot of satisfaction and joy that you're also thinking about that commitment of giving back to your community. I'd like to move over to the future somewhat in terms of what's coming next after graduation. Can you tell us a little bit about how, with creative problem solving attitude, mindset, you chose the major that you're going to follow in college?
Of course. So for context, I'm going to be studying business, basically. The name of my career path in my university is Management and Organizational Skills, which basically talks about all the theoretical part of business analytics and overall helps you emphasize on whether specialization on legal studies, on finance, on accounting, etc. But for me to choose this overall was a really long path. Obviously, I had the assistance of our school counselor, Miss Patricia Malaver, which I really want to thank. But I believe that it's a really hard journey to really understand what's the best thing for you to study, because it's a choice that will basically impact your whole life. It's a choice that basically will give you an outlook to what you will be doing into your future. So to overall choose my career, I was looking to what I'm best at. And it all goes related with what we have been saying about what is the impact that I want to leave.
Right. And your talents, and how do you
my
use
talents,
your talent
exactly.
to
So
make an impact?
I was always between international business or international relations. I wanted to do something that was able to, in a certain way, fluctuate or be immersed into what can be done politically and economically in a country. So when I was choosing, I was really leaned to going into a more political or diplomatic area of business. And that is exactly what I ended up choosing. For context, I actually wanted to study in biomedical engineering when I
Well, that's a
in
shift.
11th grade, yeah. But once I was like getting into the counseling, the assistance of our school was amazing. I really couldn't thank Marymount like with enough words for everything that they have granted me. And I believe that really when entering to the business area, I realized that what I want to do is to actually use my creative problem thinking skills, my critical thinking skills, everything that I've learned through MUN. And I realized that through that area of the economic and diplomatic and overall legal area of our businesses, of how we interpret ourselves in the global market, that is where I want to study. That is where I want to be. That is what I really passionate about. And that is something really important that I want to leave everything and everybody about when choosing a career. Do something that you really like. Don't do something that will give you success or which has a better rate for example, economic success. I believe that the true success comes when you do something that you actually are enjoying doing. And I see that a lot at, well, my teachers. For example, my teachers at Marymount, you can tell that they really love their job. They really love what they're doing. They really love that the impact that they're making is leaving that lesson for us to move on forward to our future. And that is something that I really combined when overall creating a strategic like component of what is it that I'm going to be doing in my future.
Well, thanks for sharing that experience, someone, because some of you are close, right, David?
Close.
Some of you are close. Other yous are a little bit further, but this advice and this perspective is helpful. So, David, what are your thoughts?
Actually, Miss Anna, I wanted to ask a question to someone.
Of course.
He mentioned a lot of changes during what you liked and many decisions you had to take into what you want to study today. How does the school prepare you for that? Maybe us, Maria Almara, me, entering junior year, we have to take a trend or an emphasis, and there are 4 of those. How do we manage that, or what advice can you give us?
Well, I believe that the emphasis idea that our school has created is a really important component to really choosing a career path. I believe it's really important for us to dive into one of these trends and really analyze what are the subjects that we're doing, what is the overall concept that we're following through these emphasis, to understand where our passion and talents truly shine. So I began actually in the science trend. As I said, I wanted to study biomedical engineering. And through that, I actually realized that maybe these weren't the subjects for me. I actually changed trends in 12th grade after our university visit, which was also something that our school granted us. And I realized that my passion wasn't really in science rather than everything that regards on social sciences. When it comes to reaching out to the human connection, that is exactly what I want to do. And although I'm now in math trend, which is much more than immersed in mathematics, I believe that through this trend, I was also able to understand that the way that I can connect my passion, for example, or my talents in math and physics, etc., and my overall passion for being a public speaker, being somebody who really wants to work in a social or human area, that's where I combined everything that I needed and all the skills and components I needed to choose my career overall. So I believe that choosing your emphasis with real dedication, which a lot of thought and taking into account, I think that the best advice that I can give you is to really take out all the juice of everything that the school is going to give you. Whether it is a university visits, don't go to have fun, go to actually learn. Whether it is a university fairs, when professionals come, Marymount students come and give us an opportunity to dive into their jobs and dive into what they're actually doing. Take that really into account because it's going to be really helpful at the end of the day, and it's really going to shape who you're going to or what you're going to do when you leave school, when you graduate.
Thank you, Samuel. And thank you for all of that feedback. I'm so happy to hear that everything that we're doing at the school is helping our students as they move forward. And Juli, this might seem far away, but before you know it, I know we're going to be in your senior year.
Time passes by quick.
Time passes by so quickly. So with deep gratitude, I would like to thank you for accepting this invitation and being part of this special episode on creative problem solvers, one of our devices here at Marymount. The stories with you that you shared from your heart, from your soul, are very touching and they're inspirational. And at the school, it just inspires us to be even more creative in order to make the best school that Marymount can be. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Annabella, for the invitation. The space to share our stories, share our perspectives, share our view of the world, I think that is unique. And I think at the end of the day, everyone should have also the opportunity to share because there's a lot of stories to show here at Marymount.
I think you're right.
Well, that being said, we can say our goodbyes.
Yes, we can say our goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Bye.